Welcome everyone. We're standing this week at a very special time of the year. We are between the two major Yom Tovim, the Hasidic Yom Tov of Yutes Kislev, Chav Kislev, and we're heading straight into Hanukkah. Before we know it, we're going straight into Hanukkah. And it's Parshas Vayeishev, and Shabbos Mevarchim this week, going into the month of Tevis as well, the coldest month of the year. And there's many different lessons, thoughts, things to consider in the Parsha, as any Parsha, particularly since we're time of the year, that's a very important time of the year that contains many lessons, but we'll just focus on a few simple points. The story of Yosef and his brothers, the story is that they first wanted to kill Yosef, right? The Pasuk says that they saw him from a distance and they said, let's try to kill him. Actually, interesting word. When you look at someone from the distance, you don't really try to think about him and see what he really needs. So then you could try to kill him. Meaning, if you're not in tune to a person's needs, you could easily kill him. So it says they saw him from the distance. That's when they tried to kill him. But anyway, they wanted to kill him. So Reuven said, no, throw him into the pit. They threw him into the pit. What was in the pit? So the Pasuk says, the pit was empty, there was no water. So Rashi says, why does the Pasuk have to say there's no water? If the pit is empty, obviously there's no water. So the message is that the Pasuk is trying to emphasize that when we say it was empty, it was only empty from water. There was no water, but there were other things. What other things were in the pit? Not gasoline or natural fuel, but the other things that were in the pit were snakes and scorpions. So there's no water, but the snakes and scorpions. It's a very famous Chassidic word, a Chassidic saying that water is a reference to Torah. Ein mayim ela Torah. Chachamim tell us that water is a reference to Torah. Water, snakes and scorpions. Snakes and scorpions are all different types of thoughts and things that come to a person's head that could be very, that could paralyze a person, that could kill a person spiritually, physically. Negative approaches, whether it's inappropriate thoughts in the realm of holiness, or even on a more general level, thoughts of negative thoughts that could kill a person, could poison a person. So a person is alone in the pit without Torah. That's what happens. So what is the eitzah? What is the advice? Remember Rabbi Shalom used to bring with us. I think this is one of the things he used to repeat a lot. He said, well, you have a pit of snakes and scorpions. A person's mind is like an empty vessel. There's a pit. There's things that are in there. Either there's water, either there's positive thoughts, there's good thoughts, or if it's empty from Torah, there's snakes and scorpions. Right? We say in a pustke krichtzich, there was once a chassid that came complaining to his Rabbi how his mind is full of all unwanted things. So he was told that people, that animals or things, they like to hang out in places that are destroyed, in places that are uninhabited. Basically, if you would inhabit his mind with positive thoughts, these things would go away. But anyway, Rabbi Shveg would say, if you want to get the snakes and scorpions out, don't try to catch the snake and scorpion. Don't try to fight with the snake and scorpion. Why? Because what it says, the time you're going to try to fight with the snake and scorpion, it will bite you 50 times, or bite the person 50 times before he has a chance to catch him. What should you do? He said, instead, pour in water. You pour in water, they're going to run out. So the message is, if a person he's being pulled down with negative thoughts, physically, spiritually, in the realm of Kedusha, in the realm of personal holiness, in the realm of positive approach to life in general. So what's the approach? If he's going to sit and try to fight it and try to argue out every negative approach that comes, he's not going to get anywhere. Just drag him down, right? There's a saying that says, exactly how it goes, I don't know, but the point is that if you have someone that's, somebody that has a lot of chutzpah, is going to try to argue with him, he'll drag you down to his level, and he'll win you over because he has more experience than you at his level. So don't argue with him, don't go down to his level. At his level, he's going to win. So you can't fight it. What could you do? You could add in good. You add in good, you pour water, so the negative things go away. Sometimes people, they don't want to pour water because, they feel so overwhelmed with snakes and scorpions, they feel they have to fight it. That's not the eitzah. What is the connection to the time of the year that we're in now? We're coming Hanukkah. What's the message of Hanukkah? On Hanukkah, it's dark, so what do you do when there's dark? A person gets dark, so what could a person do? He could hire a massive company to try to chase out the darkness. Or he could light a candle. He could light one candle, a little bit of candle, a little bit of light extinguishes a lot of darkness. So a person, when there's darkness in the world, sometimes we get caught up. A lot of people, we dig in the darkness. We see so much negative things going on that we sometimes get caught up. Every day you open up the newspaper for the past 5,782 years, it's the same news. And the truth is, one shouldn't say exactly 5,782, but more or less. And the Quran is the same, every day it's the same news, just a different people, different places. There's negative things going on in the world. So sometimes what happens is the person says, what's the point of me doing anything? There's this, there's that, the third thing, the fourth thing. Let me first point out to everyone how bad this person is. News breaking event, plainly, this and this person was found out to be a lowlife. So now let's spend for the next week and a half, discussing him. A week and a half later, next news flash comes out. Next plainly, the next individual is found out that he did this and that and this. So what are you going to do? Your whole life will be focusing on how low this guy is. You're not going to elevate anyone by pointing out how low someone else is. You won't elevate yourself either. So the point is, you have to add an oil, you have to add on light. Comes Hanukkah, you want to overcome the darkness, you add on light, you add in positivity. A person could say, my small light that I do, look, there's so much corruption going on in the world. What is the difference to my little thing that I'm doing? So the answer is, a little bit of light chases away a lot of darkness. And also, if I may add, it's a matter of focus. It's a matter of what you put your attention on. When you're going to open up the newspapers, no one is going to put on the newspaper the fact that there was a certain individual that gave his last savings to help someone else in need. They're not going to put in the news there's a person that took away an hour from his time from reading a newspaper and spent learning Torah. That's not,
newsworthy.
That's not newsworthy. Newsworthy, it has to be sensational. There's nothing sensational about it. So what did they have? They pick this, that, us, and so what happens is we get caught up. This is not the news. The news isn't this person did that and that. But that's not the news. The news is that I did a mitzvah. This person, the fact that on the local websites are not posting it doesn't mean that it's any less important. So when a person focuses on darkness, he's going to think, what's the point of oil? What's the point of light? But we say, no, a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness. And the same thing is when it comes to negative things, sometimes a person is going through a very negative, very difficult situation. It's very hard to remain a positive mindset, right? And anyone that, Vayeishev, as we say, the Vayeishev shouldn't test anyone, but anyone that ever went through such a thing, it's very hard to keep a positive mindset. But nevertheless, a person should try a little bit as much as he could. Try to inject in himself a level of simcha. And even if he thinks that what's the point? I'm so, it's so hurtful, it's so painful, it's so disappointing and frustrating, and nevertheless, a little bit of positive energy could go a long way. That's the first thing. That's one very simple ha'ira that we learn from Parshas Vayeishev. The other thing that we see from Parshas Vayeishev is a very, very powerful point, which we see also primarily in Parshas Vayigash, where it's highlighted even more. In Parshas Vayeishev, everyone's plans, the plans that they made, are completely destroyed. Yaakov made a plan. The Chachamim tell us Vayeishev, Yaakov wanted to finally have some peace. He had a hard life, a rough life. He's running away from his brother. He spent 20 years by Lavan. And then he has a Maisa with Dinah, and he has this. He finally spent 22 years full of troubles and hassles. He wants to finally have an easy life. So he has an easy life for whatever it was, 9 years, some whatever exactly the amount of time was, and then for the next 22 years he's again suffering because Yosef is sold into slavery and he thinks that Yosef was killed and he's mourning for him and so on and so forth. So the Parshas is called Vayeishev. Vayeishev means he settled. He wanted to settle. The Chacham say Yaakov wanted to settle in a peaceful, have a finally peaceful life. The Eibusher said no. The Eibusher caused that he had a peaceful few years, but not too long afterwards another issue came up. Similarly, you had Yosef. Look at Yosef. Yosef was a young bacher, a young guy, 17 years old. He had his whole life ahead of him. And here, his own brother sold him into slavery. Crazy story. His life is disrupted. Then he ends up being in jail for 10 years, 12 years. Right? Then you have Yehuda, he got, everyone in the story, there's different things going on, which all seem that everything is, as they say, degenerating, decomposing. Everything is unwinding in a negative way. But that's when you look at the first part of the story. Look at the end of the story, what happened. We see that all of these things, eventually, the Eibishter's cheshbon, the Eibishter's plan was that it should lead to good. Yosef was sold into slavery in order that he should become the second in command, the Mishnah Lamalach. In order to save Yaakov, went through the suffering, in order that he should be able to reach the 17 best years he could have ever had, ever imagined, when he lived in Mitzrayim under Yosef's care. And so too, everyone seems, is going haywire, but the point is that it should lead to a better thing. And the same thing is we have Yutas Kislev, coming from Yutas Kislev. Today we're celebrating and we're dancing, but at the time it was a very, very serious accusation, and it didn't seem, what was the point? That Rebbe went through terrible suffering for what? So the Nakuda is that we have, when it's all over, we see that the whole purpose of everything was for a positive thing. So what it means to us is, Yosef had dreams. He had a dream. His dreams made no sense. What was his dream? His dream was, he's telling his brothers he's going to be the king. His brothers decide to kill him. Why? Because they don't see in their mind that it makes that there's any chance of him becoming a king. So what is he dreaming about becoming a king? He's dreaming about becoming a king. Although as they say, what you think about by day is what you dream about by night. So their brothers probably thinking the whole day, conspiring somehow to subdue them into slavery, to become king over them. Who is he? The youngest one. He's going to be almost second, almost the youngest. He's going to become the king over them. They looked at him that it's coming from an ego, right? Really was a dream, was a prophecy, he would become king. They interpreted it as ego. Well, Yosef had a dream, and his father, Yaakov, was waiting for the dream to come true. And the dreams eventually came true, even though they made no sense. So sometimes the Eibishter wants to give a person something which he thinks is a dream, something that he can't imagine happening. And the Chachamim say, as much as you think about Mashiach, you speak about Mashiach, will actually come, it's going to be beyond what we expected. So a person could say it's a dream, it's a nice dream, right? And then what are you dreaming about? Get real with life, What did the Eibishter show? That what were they trying to do? They were trying to stop Yosef from his dreams. Like, we'll send you, we'll kill you. What's going to become of your dreams? But when they were trying to hurt him, the Eibishter made that what they tried to do really helped him become second in command, and his dreams become true. So the Nakuda is that a Jew always lives with hope. There's always the dream. There's always the idea he knows there's a promise. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Question is, does he just suffer for his whole life and look at the negative, or does he focus on the positive? So we see the whole Parshas shows us that even the negative things that happen, sof kol sof, the whole purpose was, even though we might not understand it, the purpose was for good. When it comes to Yutas Kislev, the purpose was that Chassidus should spread even more. Every Yerida, every time there's a descent in life, this is the purpose of an ascent. And the Rebbe adds one more point, interesting point. I'll conclude with this point, a very, very powerful lesson. You have the number of stories in Parshas Vayeishev, and one of the things is the story with Yehuda and Tamar, the ganze Ma'aser, the main center stage in Parshas Vayeishev, the story of Yosef. And then Yehuda married, and right after Yosef is sold, the stage of the Parsha changes to another scene. Now Yehuda gets married, he has children, and one child dies, the other child dies, and now Tamar conceives two children from Yehuda, and she conceived Peretz. She conceived two twins, Zerach and Peretz. And Peretz is called Peretz. What means Peretz? Ma Peretz Talacha Peretz. He strengthened himself. Right, his brother first was on his way out, and his brother stretched out his hand, and he came out before his brother had a chance to do another move. So he broke through the boundary, so to say. So, and then right after Peretz is born, the pasuk continues, goes back to Yosef. Why do we stop with the story of Peretz? Why dafka over here? So the Rabbi says Peretz means to break all boundaries. Yosef, what does the word Yosef mean? Yosef means an addition. Yosef Hashem li beinacha, you reach a higher level. Yosef's purpose of going to Mitzrayim was to reach a higher level, was that not only Yaakov should have whatever peace he was able to attain based on whatever he achieved until now, but that he should have an additional level of peace, that he should see his son, the Mishnah Lamelech, he should be able to have the 17 best years of his life in Mitzrayim. And Yosef, brought about, he elevated Mitzrayim, he paved the way for the Jewish people to come out of Mitzrayim with great wealth and to get ready for the receiving of the Torah and so on and so forth. But before Yosef goes to Mitzrayim, we highlight that what is the power of this peretz? A person breaks through boundaries. The koyach, there's a person who wants, this person could say, I did enough in my life. Let me sit in peace. I accomplished many things. I gave millions of dollars to tzedakah. I started many nice organizations. I learned a lot of Torah. So we say, no, you want to have the ultimate peace. The ultimate peace means you have to break through all your boundaries. Not break through someone else's boundaries, but break through your own boundaries. Ma paratzta alacha paratz. Paratzta, the pasuk says that you strengthened on yourself, meaning you broke through your own boundaries. So the whole reason why the Eibusher set the limitations is they should break through boundaries. So if a person has, before we continue with the story of Yosef, before explaining how Yosef was able to survive and reach what he reached, is because we highlight that what's the purpose of all of this is that we should break through boundaries. So what does it mean for us? What it means for us is that a person should break through boundaries. Sometimes we say, I'll do this, I'll do that, and then I want the Eibusher in return for the 3 or 4 things that I'm doing. I want the Eibusher to give me 500 things and this and that. Okay, the truth is that any small time a Jew puts his pinky in cold water, he's deserving the Eibusher should give him kol tov shebel and take it from Yad Mamish. But at the same time, a person should never be satisfied with what he does. You did something. Don't say, now it's time to be in peace. There's nothing to be in peace until Mashiach comes, where we need to. There's a lot of things cooking in the world. We need to be able to break through all boundaries. In order to break through boundaries, you can't remain at peace. The mere fact that you're saying that you're satisfied with what you did until now is already a sign of galus. You have to be proactive, do more. You have more koyach to do something. Break through more boundaries. And through breaking through boundaries, that brings Mashiach. That brought that Yosef became the Vayeishev over Egypt, even though it made no sense. He was a slave. From 1 second ago, he was a slave in a pit. So no hope of ever seeing the light of sun. And a few minutes later, he's the second in command in Egypt. Min hakatza lakatza. Why? Because this is an akudah, because he broke through boundaries. So we have to break through our own boundaries. This is what Chanukah is, this is what this Kislev is. And breaking through boundaries doesn't have to mean something which is bombastic. Even if a person is feeling depressed and low and down and doesn't see the purpose of doing another mitzvah, nevertheless he does it, that's also breaking through boundaries. L'chaim, we should all break through our boundaries. The Eibusher should break through the boundaries of Galus to bring Mashiach now. We should have a Freilich and Chanukah, and the coming of Mashiach take it from Yad Mamish.